Hello, everybody here, and everybody who will be seeing this in the future. I welcome you. This is our ARV Learn by Doing, which we do the first Wednesday of every month. This is called Creativity and eGARV. We'll do some general talk about creativity and show how eGARV is the perfect, I think, application for applying and improving your creativity. Um, so in general, here's the schedule. We will talk for about a half an hour on creativity and eGARV. We'll share the eGARV stats through the end of April, and then we'll go into a prediction of a Major League Baseball game. The regular eGARV group has already done for today a basketball prediction, but we wanted this one to be different, so we're doing a baseball game. And in fact, this will be the game, the Reds versus the Braves. Now, let's talk about creativity. I think creativity is quite mysterious. Here's a definition, is the ability to transcend traditional ideas, rules, patterns, relationships, or the like. Okay, pretty general. Creativity is the spark that ignites a combination of imagination, critical thinking, and the willingness to experiment and take risks. Somehow, and again, this is kind of a mysterious thing. It certainly involves the mind and the heart with the emotions and feelings. It's kind of a holistic doing, I believe. Now, here are some of the big examples that we recognize in art. Pablo Picasso invented in a creative way Cubism by breaking traditional perspective rules and presenting multiple viewpoints in a single artwork. Science, way back to Nikola Tesla, he developed the concept of wireless energy transfer, combining knowledge from electromagnetism and innovative ideas to create new possibilities. In technology, a very recent example, Stephen Jobs and the Apple team designed the first iPhone, revolutionizing the mobile communication with a touch screen interface and integrated features. And then something closer to what we're doing, which is fantasy sports and predictive markets. Some individual craft highly strategic methods for picking fantasy sports teams, and they are doing better than your average folk, or forecasting political and financial events. And I think of this is almost always using AI. And so this is a creative use of AI. Now, I believe eGARV is perfect for personal creativity, not looking for something that will affect all of, humanity, but how about personal creativity affecting you personally? And I think eGARV is very good for that. The creativity in eGARV is in the generation of your transcript and your positive feedback. So eGARV is classical ARV in a way. The G stands for a group ARV, and the E is for Ed May, who sold me his basic program, which then I modified to make into a group program. So that's what eGARV stands for. So the ARV part and eGARV is standard in terms of what you do. You describe and or sketch your coordinate, some call it a TRN, a target reference number. Um, so your coordinate photo site, and then this is your creation. And then you do positive feedback, which is your creation. Now, the thing that makes, and I think I say this elsewhere, but let me say it now for some newbies here. The thing which makes eGARV different from all the other ARV approaches is that no human being ever sees both targets. Ed came up with a way where the computer does the judging based on 24 elements, which I will discuss shortly. But this got rid of the issue of displacement, which all of us suffered with for many, many years. So there's no displacement in eGARV since no human being ever sees both photos. Okay, now here's where you have another opportunity to be creative by watching what's in your mind and heart when you learn the hit, miss, pass outcome. Um, you respond differently to the hit outcome than you do the miss outcome or the pass outcome. And emotionally, I think intellectually, you understand why a hit is so much better than a miss or a pass. But be the creator of improved emotional responses. But guess what? That's up to you. This is all about how you handle the eGARV process. Now, this is a short and long-term psychology and creativity with eGARV. The daily ones that we do, what are you going to do today? That's short term. And how you respond to that is short term. But we are looking at a long term, 1,000 trials. Okay. And that, in terms of your mindset and how you look at your creativity, is rather important. What happens on any given one day is important in the sense that it improves your long-term hit rate. Okay, so let me now give you a brief background and I'll update you on the staffs. So Ed May, that's the E and eGARV, and then it's Group ARV. So the key here is no human ever sees both possible targets. And I went through the details of this in this link. And then this link gives a simple approach of the same thing. And the key creative element, removing displacement, which is doing a great job on the wrong target. Also, just sometimes we would get unique information from the losing target. How did that happen? It shows that the universe is non-local, and even though you don't intend it, your mind was looking at another target that was exposed to the universe through a human being seeing both targets. And that was the creative element which Ed brought into this. Now, from the viewer's perspective, you do your remote viewing session, always write on it your intention and your group. The intention is something like describe and or sketch my feedback target. If you want to write it in full, describe and sketch my feedback target or DS my feedback target. But just be clear on what your intention is. And then always do your positive feedback session after the outcome is known. You did not finish your eGARV prediction until you do the positive feedback. Okay, now the thing which makes eGARV unique, um, and this was Ed May's invention. I basically bought this from him, um, is that he has put together 24 Gestalt AOLs, which define each of the possible eGARV targets. Now, when you go in and get a coordinate, there are indeed two possible targets, but only the computer knows those two. So your transcript is judged by me, and it is my job to match your transcript to these 24 possible Gestalt's AOLs. Um, so these are not all colors, for example. He came up with a pretty good mix that will match general targets, but they get into Gestalts and AOLs. So your transcripts need to get that high. And here's an example, and I've marked what counts as the Gestalt-like things in this example. Multiple, mountains, very specifically, that's a good one. Snow, cliffs, hills, natural, biological vegetation, plants and trees. Now, um, and I'm not telling you exactly what those words are, but these are certainly hints. Here's the water. Now, know over here, wavy fluid came from the ideogram, natural water. Water by itself is not helpful. It is not one of the elements because there are many different types of water. One of them is a lake. One of them is a land-water interface. Sometimes you have both of these. Okay, there are other kinds of water. And then here you have textured. Here you have more vegetation, biological vegetation. So this gives you an example where you need to go into what I call the Gestalt AOL level on your transcript. I think that's a level stage 3 or more to begin to get this sort of thing, though a lot of people get it in stage 2. And sketches work. I'll take a sketch and if I can, I'll convert it into one of those 24 elements. Now we're going to the analytics, which Ed put out, which you don't need. I described it in detail in that first reference, but every prediction will lead to the list of the people who did it and more details than I'm showing here. The key thing is what he calls FOM, figure of merit. Now, he only used 0.45 basically as his figure of merit. I made those green. He only had one person. And with one person, it took, he had 80% passes roughly. John Knowles is going to confirm that. In fact, maybe John, now's a good time to do that because you can see here with multiple people, even in this example, we had two examples over 0.45, and we have a lower level of 0.3. And I'm willing to make a prediction if I have two yellows. So if I have two yellows, that's enough to make a prediction. So in eGARV, we make predictions roughly 90% of the time rather than 10% of the time. So John, I think this would be a good time for you to describe and share what we did. We
Okay.
did this many years ago.
Right.
Ed gave us a version, one of his earlier versions of this app.
Can you see that?
Yeah, we see it well.
Shall I just describe the whole thing then?
Well, no, I think what
Or
years? That'd be the first thing when you got this. Do you remember?
can you see my cursor?
No.
Okay.
Yes,
But
yes, I see
I
you.
can see it. Yep, it's there.
Uh-huh.
so EdMake gave APP the software some 10 years ago or more, and we ran a number of experiments with it because we were excited. This is under Marty's group, and the top part shows four groups. Those four groups all obeyed EdMake's instructions about specifically how to use the software. And then down below, we have five groups. And one of them intentionally decided to modify the protocol to see if the results would be better. They were not Croatorum. They had one hit and two misses. So you can see that we had 80% passes because the top figure did not reach 0.4519. But when we did make a prediction, we had 13% hits and 5% misses, but that's 71% and 29%. So the success rate, in other words, of active predictions was 71% when Ed May's instructions were followed. But the eight passing was very, very high. And as I mentioned to Marty, back then, Joe McMonagle was at one of these conferences, and I went up to him and said, we're getting good results, but the passes are 80%, and people are falling out. They don't want to do it anymore. He put his hand, slammed it on the table, and said, if they're professionals, damn it, they should stick with it. Well, we didn't. So that's the result. And now Marty's saying that you have far fewer passes, so that's wonderful. So that's the essence of the actual things. The hypothetical is something else, but we can set that aside for now, I think.
I think you made the key point is that people try different things, people use the main one, and basically there were um, um, only 20% of the time did they make a prediction.
Right.
We're at the point where 90% of the time we have a prediction.
Right.
Okay. Now, that comes from two things. One, we have a group. Look, we had 10 people here making a prediction. So with 10 people, you obviously have more of a chance of people getting over 0.45. But I felt, based on previous experience, indeed, that was so high, I introduced this zero point 0.3 level, but planning on only using it if we had two yellows. So in many ways, I'm doing this by the color. One green is good enough to make a prediction. Two yellows are enough to make a prediction. And if when you do this, if all you want to look at is FOM and your name, you'll be able to see if you were green or yellow, and it'll give your prediction here. And then based on my analysis, here's the group prediction, and you will get the game, the specific game. With basketball and baseball, it's over or under. And so you will be able to wager if you want to. A lot of people are simply doing this to enhance their consciousness. Some are wagering, I'm wagering, but in a very slow, deliberate manner. I take 10% of whatever my bankroll is. Okay, and here is the full table, which you get, which has things like target accuracy, target reliability, um, the figure of merit, but it, we discussed in those other things the other links, what these mean, and some people are interested in that, and you can go to that one, or um, Well, I'm going to show you links where we discuss this daily, and you can come and ask me questions on it, and I'll be happy to answer those. But here, so after um, you've made your prediction, okay, and here's a list you will get of everybody's prediction plus a group prediction. I just didn't show it here because I wanted you to be able to read these other things, but there's a group prediction also that you will get, which is based on my looking at this. I mean, here it's easy, they're all overs, but lots of times some are over, some are under, and looking at the um, colors, and sometimes I look at the probabilities. I make a group prediction, and occasionally I pass. Now, after the game, you will get your target feedback, and always do what's called positive. The positive feedback is, I just can't overemphasize it. It is how, in this non-local, wonderful psychic world we live in, where I believe the surrounding um, field that we're in, which is non-local, shares information with the past as well as the future. So you now emphasize that by marking matches on your transcript. That, of course, is always fun. But then on a new sheet of paper or on your transcript, if that's how you choose to do it, add things you wished you had done. So that means add new gestalts, new AOL, words, phrases, even new sketches emphasizing the gestalts and AOLs. And as you do this, consciously enjoy the positive emotions and feelings and feel love and joy. This field that's around us is actually the 0 point energy field that comes from quantum mechanics. Scientists agree that field is there. What they will refuse to accept is that that's a spiritual field. And I'm very clear that that is a deep spiritual field. And that's why your intentions and everything we're doing here works. Okay, so let's talk stats. I'm showing you last month's um, where we had hits 55, 20 misses, 84 trials, a hit rate of 65%. I now go into, because it's very convenient, an online approach. Where you put in that this is normally a 50% probability, that's what you would think. There's the 84, this, and then here's a number of successes, 55, and up pop all the probabilities. The most important one is the probability of getting 55 or more, and that was 0.003. And then the odds against chance is 1 minus P over P. Now, 330 is actually pretty good odds against chance that this would happen by chance. But now here is April. So for April, we had 68 hits, 34 misses, 102 trials. There's 102. Here is the cumulative probability. And now we have odds against chance of 2,000 to 1. Don't know what to tell you. People have done things using different approaches where you get up to 1,000,000 to 1. But at what point do you say, you know what, there's something to this? And we're, I think, well past that. And our intention is to go to 1,000 of these before we even consider stopping. Here is the plot. Now, when we started, we got beginner's luck. We actually had 3 hits. but then we had a miss. So 75% is 1 out of 4. We had a second miss. So then we had 3 out of 5, but that's our 60%. And then you can see up and down, up and down. Here's a whole series of misses, but still above 60%. Then here's a whole series of hits. Um, and then you can see we're sort of settling in right around 65%. I'm calling our average right now 65%. But indeed, the cumulative hit rate after 102 of these is 67%. Now, we defined when we first saw this, and we first saw this way back here, where it was beginning to level off, we defined the impossible dream. Um, and I guess we did this when we had 50 somewhere, it looked like it was leveling off. The impossible dream is to get 1,000 of these, and we don't know what that's going to look like, but I'm assuming it's going to be 65%, or who knows, maybe higher. But I'm happy with 65%. And this can only happen with you, viewers, and me doing the judging. Now, I want to talk about ethics here. You always do the best eGARV prediction that you can do. Do it when you feel ready to do a good prediction, a good creative prediction. Each time you do one, you learn a little bit more about your consciousness from each RV prediction and feedback and positive feedback session. Now, do not share the group predictions. Notice only the people who submit transcripts get the group predictions. We don't want people who are not playing the game, if you will, of eGARV, where they submit honest transcripts, getting the group predictions. We want to have people who do the group eGARV predictions to be the ones who benefit if you choose to wager, and if you don't, you're benefiting your consciousness in any case. So only viewers who submit transcripts get the group predictions. And I always encourage you to have other viewers join us. Now, if you wager, wager wisely. I consider this, you start with a bankroll that's comfortable for you, and then you just keep wagering 10% of your bankroll, and it'll go up 2/3 of the time, roughly, and down 1/3 of the time. But overall, that means it'll grow very nicely. Thank you. And passes and misses are okay. You learn from them in a creative way. Okay, we're about to do a prediction. Are there any questions on what I've done and discussed so far? The stats, I hope, are clear. Hit rate is hits divided by hits plus misses. I ignore passes, though we don't get many of them. Okay, so you're comfortable with what I said. Okay. Um, okay, so there is a question. I'm sorry, I'm seeing it in here. You count for synonyms or similar. Yes, that's exactly what I have to do as the judge. Is I look at the words, look at the sketches, and my job is, does it match, in my opinion, one of those 24 Gestalt AOL categories that he defined? And so synonyms, of course, are one thing I use. Yes. And the difference between accuracy and reliability is really the percentage of things that you put down in your transcript that were marked as one of the 24 that are correct. Ed made the distinction that if you were to put down the dictionary, you get 100% reliability because everything would certainly be there. And that's where accuracy comes in. Accuracy is the percent of your elements that match the actual um, um, ad generated transcript. Maybe I should say a little bit more than that. He had, I think it was like 30 people go over every transcript, and they marked those 24 categories. And then he averaged those to come up with what he gave for each picture. So he didn't do it. He had outside people look at the pictures and come up with what they thought for each picture were the 24 categories. Okay.
Marty, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Krista.
Hello. Um, it is the conclave at the moment. It's just started, of course, in Rome. And I was wondering whether one could use something like this to look at what's going to happen with a new pope. But I'm thinking that's quite difficult because you're looking at a person rather than, a body of water or a mountain or a steel pump or something. Maybe you can just give me your ideas as to how that might work if one looks at a person becoming a new leader for the Catholic communities.
Yeah, obviously an important question for the Catholics. An equivalent question, which was binary, was who is going to win the 2024 election? And we did this, and we got the Republican Party. As long as it's binary, we can do it. So maybe if it gets down to two people, and I don't think they'll give you that information, we indeed could do that and make a prediction. We have done non-binary. We did the Kentucky Derby with 20, but then you need 20 pictures, and that gets hard. I'm happy to do binary. Things go slower, but a lot less stress and work.
Okay, maybe one should look at the top two or something like that. Thank you.
Yes, if they'll give you that. But right. Okay. Thank you for those questions. And anything else? Okay, so let's go on. So let's now make an eGARV prediction. And your intention is really very simple. Describe and or sketch my feedback target. Each person is getting a different feedback target. So that's your intention. And as you do more and more of these, this goes in deeper and deeper, all the way down to the deepest part of yourself, where that's your intention. Now, what we're going to do here, the game is really quite secondary in eGARV. We can do anything we want. As I said, we've done basketball prediction already. You are going to do a major league basketball prediction between the Reds and the Braves, and we do over and under. So when we did this, it was 7.5 over and under for baseball, which is kind of reasonable. So that's the sum of the total points that both the Reds and the Braves will do in this game. But remember, from your perspective, that doesn't matter. And from my perspective, it doesn't matter. I judge this based on what I see in your transcript. Okay, so I have put out, but I'm the only one so far that's seen it, is the tasking for this. And this is a special group that I have for just this sort of thing rather than the daily. We do this daily in general. And here it is. Notice it says the event is Major League Baseball, Reds versus the Braves. It has today's date on it. describe Aaron or sketch my feedback target. That's the tasking. Here I needed to put this in a way that I could tap on it. And I'm going to give you that same link now in the text box. When you do this, generally, you'll get a page like the last one. Like, yes, you will get just like this. So for each group, and we have a daily group with a different name, you will get a link like this. This link will be hot. You click it, and you'll get a page like this. And hopefully you should click it now. Are you doing that? Is anybody having trouble seeing a page like this? Assuming you're all getting that, then you put in your email address so I know who to send the response to. I'm just going to put in a test in here, and you see how simple this is. You do that one link, you put in your email, and there is your coordinate. So you now have a coordinate. You now go ahead. That's all you need to do your transcript. You can listen to, and then we're going to do it now. You can listen to this 3-minute meditation, and then there's a silent meditation you can use if you choose to. The key is you now have your coordinate, your target reference number, and you can go. Are all you set with that? Okay, so I put this in the chat box. And now let's describe and sketch my feedback target. That's your intention. I always feel be happy you are right at the cutting edge of one aspect of psychic phenomena, of the non-local consciousness. You should feel really good about that. You're an explorer. And I think for those of you who have never done this, what we do is we want your name, the date, the time. The group here is Alpha. So we always put something like that on the top. You now have your coordinate. Put that on the top. Optionally, you can say it out loud, and then you can say it out loud at feedback. And if you've never done one of these, are all of you sophisticated enough that you've done it? I know most of you are. David, you're the only one. Have you ever done a remote viewing session?
Yeah, just one or two.
Okay. One or two is enough. So you know,
No, I've been a remote viewer for 6 years. I've already done my session and scanned it in. I'm just about to email it for you.
okay, very good. All of you know that. You're going to listen to your deeper, higher creative self. The AOLs count here. In many methodologies, they ignore them. No, we want AOLs and gestalts. So be creative. And let's begin with a cool down, breathe, relax. Joe McMonagle says cool down is very important. Getting yourself quiet, getting rid of all of the day-to-day stuff. Tom McNair says he does silent prayer to an all-knowing entity that then shares information with them, calls that God. What we're going to do is a 3-minute meditation with words from Stephen Wright. It's just 3 minutes. And then we'll do 5 minutes with something called spinning drift that came from the Monroe Institute. And then make sure your intention is set. It's probably already set to connect with your positive feedback. I will tell you when the 5 minutes is got up, but if you want to go further, you do. The only thing is that we will begin talking, and then you'll send your transcript to me. So I'm now going to begin at 5 minutes.
Don't be afraid. We recognize that as human beings, we exist on many planes of existence, from our mortal frame, our minds and bodies, to an aspect of our being that is immortal, the soul, our essence. Each of us, during our lives, may touch into that truth. It may sometimes seem far away, sometimes may seem close. Some of us may live it moment by moment, recognizing that we are not just who we think we are. We're not our roles, our identities. So be open now, deep in our consciousness, deep in the unconscious. Allow ourselves to say quite simply, I am. Breathe in the word, I. Breathe out the word, am. Just sit for a moment, breathing, I am. Encouraging the sense of simply being. No need for an addition that I am this, or I am that, or I'm experiencing this. But I am open to, receptive to the deepest, very core of our being. This I amness has been said throughout time in all traditions. It is eternal. It is immortal. We open ourselves, are receptive to our essential nature, which does not know death. The we who we think we are may pass away, the world may pass away, but it is only one plane of consciousness, deep in the very core of our being, is the immortal I amness, which all beings, all life, all creation possesses. And as we touch into that essential I amness, as we breathe in the word I, breathe out the word am, we remember that those are the very words when asked, who are you, of the divine? That is exactly what the divine says. I am. And we say, I am. And all beings say, I am. The whole universe is saying, I am.
Please do your RV transcript now.
Press on the bottom of your transcript. Okay, clear, you're done. And then send your transcript to me as an attachment or copy it into an email. Yeah, very good. And two, don't rush. Take your time. Sending it over is sometimes time consuming. Look at transcripts like this for the daily stuff as well, so I can find them easily. Yes, thank you, John.
Marty, I've emailed my session to you, but I'm not seeing it in your inbox. So maybe check your junk folder.
Sometimes the internet seems to be running more slowly. Yes. There you are. What a bummer. You should be in my inbox now. There you are. Mark you the same one. Green. The place it goes to. Okay, thank you, Simona. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Are there, okay, 2 of you are still working on it. If one of you decided not to do it, that's fine. Just let me know. Okay, Krista, very good. Thank you all for participating in this. Now, you don't often think about it this way, but you are definitely explorers. The non-local universe, the psychic universe. Okay, there's one. Okay, I'm going to go ahead anyway, and you keep doing the sending. Your transcript's done. I just need to receive it. Okay. So then once I will receive these and I will do eGARV judging of your transcript. So I will judge them using synonyms, using the sketches that go along with those 24 categories that a group of 30 people or so use for each of the pictures. And that's all. I will not be seeing two photos at all. In fact, I won't see any photo until feedback time. So you will get a personal and group prediction sent to your email. That will happen pretty quickly. And then after the game, well, not pretty quickly, I got stuff to do and whatever, but you will get it before the game, and I'll get it to you probably in an hour or so. And then after the game, you will get your unique feedback target. And in both the predictions and the feedback, you will have those analytical numbers. So you'll get to see how you did and always do positive feedback. I'm emphasizing that because a lot of people think they're done and you're not done until you've done your positive feedback. So you mark the matches on your transcript. You then, on a new sheet of paper or on your transcript, do the RV session you wish you had done. You add new Gestalt AOL words, phrases, you add new simple sketch, and consciously enjoy positive emotions and feelings, and add, feel, love, joy, positive feelings. Now, here's where every weekday, so that'll include tomorrow. If you have any questions, join us. We talk about eGARV first, and then we do the meditation. So that's the link, and I hope you can join us. Let's see if I got. Okay, here's the last transcript with a weird question. Okay, maybe the question is on the PDF. I don't know who's that? Okay, Sophia, are you here under that name? Go ahead, ask the weird question, Sophia. I love weird questions. That's where creativity comes from lots of times. Sophia, you have a weird question. Thank you for your transcript. You can put the weird question, either turn off your mic or you can put it in the chat box. Maybe you've written it already in your PDF and I'll answer it there. Okay, and I'll go on. We're practically done. I think one of the things which we need to get deep in ourselves is that we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And then I've done several things at the Monroe Institute, but in the very first, they had us go through 4 sacred ponds, come out with a word, and these were my words: love, wisdom, beauty, joy. The key is to stay in the moment. Joy is found in the moment. I'm still trying to acknowledge this one. Wisdom is knowing I am nothing. Love is knowing I am everything. And between the two, my life moves. Inner beauty, the end of all wisdom, is love, love, love. That's the end of the webinar. And please now ask questions and go ahead. I'm now done. So I'm open to your questions and comments.
Marty, when I read these books, uh, you know, Ed Dames or any of the old, the ones from way back, some of the sessions that they talk about take a long time. It's an hour session or it's a 2-hour session. Seems like we do these very quickly. So I quite like that. I don't know whether you see a difference in a very long session or whether quick is better.
Well, you said it exactly right. In ARV, any version of associative remote viewing, there, and especially in binary ARV, there are only 2 choices. So the judging, whether it's by a person or a machine, can go much quicker. And so that's why we do 5 minutes is usually enough. Some people say, gee, I wish you had given me more time. Take more time. Take as much time as you need, but usually they are short. Now I have but then I was doing the judging, had people do long sessions and I would judge them, and I didn't see any improvement. There's more stuff to go through. It was much harder. Right now, I say 1 or 2 pages.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm curious on the results. Thank you very much. Yes, Krista. Now, in those days, I mean, if you're trying to locate a missing person and you want to give the location to describe so someone can actually find it, you do need a lot of pages because you want to get down to the details. In fact, a lot of these guys would name the city and then come up with some knowable item of the city. Was there a statue that's known with that city? And they describe that. Joe McMonagle used to find missing persons that had been missing for 30 years. And with his transcript, 30-page transcript, they would have people go out and he had a phenomenal hit rate. So there are times when you want long transcripts, but not for ARV. David, do you have something you'd like to say?
Yeah, on this topic, I always have erred towards doing absolutely the shortest session possible for ARV. If you have a well-chosen target pair, really one ideogram should be enough to differentiate which one you're talking about. And one reason for that, as well as convenience, is that the longer I go on, the more chance there seems to be of data from the incorrect target coming in and getting displacement. So it made me think of your statement that displacement is completely gone with this technique where nobody ever sees both images. But I noticed on one of the slides earlier where you had the two columns with the figure of merit for one outcome and the other, you had kind of three yellows and two greens on one side, and then you had a couple of yellows over the other sides. So wouldn't that indicate that there is still displacement going on, just we can't see it because we're not seeing the images?
That's a point of view which says that possibly unconsciousness or deep consciousness can read the mind of a computer. If you think it's true displacement in the sense that it did a good job, and I have seen that. I've seen greens on both sides, and it's very frustrating. Or, or it's chance. I mean, after a while, people get a sense of what those 24 categories are. And I always tell people, yes, you get that sense and that's good. But when you're doing your session, put that aside and let your subconscious bring up the right ones. But yes, you've observed that, and so have I. But actually, more often than not, we do not get two greens on both sides. Sometimes we'll get two yellows on one side only, and sometimes we'll get a bunch of stuff. So the universe is working in strange ways, and I've learned to just simply go and trust it. I can't figure this out. This, and I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't think anybody can figure this out.
Yeah,
As soon as you get a theory, it'll do something to disprove it.
that's
It's
exactly it.
slippery as heck, isn't it?
Just trust and do the best judging I can do and move forward. Laura, thank you for joining us. Yep.
Marty, if I wanted to join one of your groups who are doing this regularly, where should I go?
Um, Send me an email and you can do one group free, which will give you 1 day, or for 65 bucks a year, and I've got to raise that. Our costs are going up. But now at 65 bucks a year, you can do all 5 groups. So you could do one every day or one whenever you want to. Some people like the choice of 5, but they might only do 3 a week. People are doing it every day though. But just send me an email,
Cool.
say I'd like to
Well,
join.
hopefully it won't go to junk when I send you another email.
Right. Hmm. Why don't you send it now?
I'll send you one now. If you go in your junk and then open the email, there's a button somewhere in Outlook that says mark as
Right.
not junk or safe sender or something like that, and then in future
Exactly.
it will let them through.
Okay. Other questions, comments? Very good. So I think I can end this now. Thank you all for joining me. And I am going to stop the recording.